I was like ready to quit at halfway. And I got to the aid station, and the lady there, who I don't know her name, I've never seen her again. She's completely changed my life. She has no clue. She sat me down and was like, "Can you run 3 more miles?" I was like, "Yeah, I can run 3, but I can't run 16."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, the next aid station's 3 more miles ahead, so you're not quitting here."
Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm your host, Forbes Shannon, and with me,
Christine Butler.
and in studio today, we have a fractional executive. I love that you're going to be in the guest chair because you also have this awesome podcast called What the Frack that is taping internationally. The one and only Globetrotter, Nicole Zeno. Nicole, thanks for being here.
having me.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you were nominated by a couple different people here to be on the Extraordinary Stories. We connected at Tech Talent Summit, but you were also nominated by Daniela Santangelo. So how do you know Daniela?
I met Daniela because I was mentoring for the ACA for their Innovation Challenge. And weirdly enough, one of the guys who also was mentoring, who I had never said 2 words to before, but he had heard me talk to founders, and I knew what I was talking about. She was having an event, needed a speaker, and he was like, "Nicole." And so when she reached out to me and was like, "Oh, this guy, basically nominated you," I was like, "I know who this guy is." Turns out, when I looked him up and whatnot, I was actually a fan of what he had said to founders. He obviously knows what he's doing. But I went to the event, spoke at her event, and we just instantly clicked. She's very Italian like I am, and we're just cut from the same cloth.
Very cool. Awesome. Before we were taping, you just kind of were going through a laundry list of all the different countries that you visited. Just as the last time I saw you, I was like, "How was Greece?" You're like, "I've been to 10 other countries."
Yeah, it's been a Q3 and 4 have been a lot of travel. Even before COVID, before remote work was like a thing, my goal had always been that I wanted to be location neutral. That was always my thing. I felt like it was really, I don't know, it just felt really wrong that you had to like put roots down in one spot.
Yeah.
You could only hire people from a 25-mile radius. You can only work with people from that amount. Like, even going into college and trying to figure out what I was going to do in college I remember that being for me the like worst decision of my life.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're telling me I have to pick one thing forever, right?
Well, in one place too.
In one place, right? And where you're going to start building your network and all of that. And you can even ask my parents. My dad to this day will be like, "That was the worst time of like our lives with you," like, because I just could not pick. And so for me, I don't think I would be able to like build a community in one spot if I didn't have the ability to travel and see the world. And it's made me a better entrepreneur. It's made me a better person, like all these things. But you know this when you're building something, when you're in that building phase, you're early in your career, it's hard to do that. And so I'm finally in the space, I think, where I've gotten it worked out, where I can do it. And I've taken full advantage of that.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be friendly to be able to travel and make all these connections all over the place. You always been friendly?
I was kind of awkward child in high school. I mean, I was the one in like the art room. But it's funny. So I'm a runner as well, and I had a friend. I don't know if you know this, but in Arizona, weirdly, the running groups are kind of cliquey.
Yes. Yeah, I do know that.
Good.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm not the only one. So the running groups are really cliquey in Arizona. It's not like that almost anywhere else. It's really strange.
That's so funny that you mentioned that because you were so dead on that. I never realized that until right now.
Yeah. No, and I don't think I was talking to friends who are in Nevada who are runners, and they don't have that situation there. I don't know what it is, but like if you're part of one group, you don't talk to the other. Like it's like a whole thing. Like if you're
don't cross the street.
Yeah, if you're a road runner, you're a trail runner, right? It's very cliquey. But she turned around one day, and this was one of the best compliments. She was like, "You know enough people in all the groups, like you're close enough where you know what's going on, but you're not so close that you're in the drama." And that's how I feel like I've become myself, and I've kind of moved into that space in business, and traveling solo really helps you to like develop those skill sets.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Traveling alone is so underrated.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
I would just book flights to San Francisco, eat by myself, deadly all of it by myself, and it's healing.
There's something about there's like when you're like in a meeting and you're like want to ask for a raise or something that like just makes your heart race and you're like
Yeah.
nervous about.
Yeah.
When you do that before solo travel, it's debilitating, right? It
Mhm.
feels so hard. When you go overseas or anywhere solo, but especially when you navigate a city that you don't speak the language and you get from one place to another on the metro and you're like, I didn't die.
I did it.
Right? Like I did it. And suddenly you come home and that same conversation doesn't feel so scary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And the thing for me is I tell this to business owners all the time. I'm like, there's a skill set to being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Mm.
We praise athletes, we praise musicians, we praise all these people who practice their skill. But our society has deemed entrepreneurship this thing that anyone can do.
Mm.
And to an extent, yes, but there's skills that we still should be practicing. And things like ultra marathon running, solo travel, those are the things for me that I found that I learned more about business than actually being in business.
Mm. And so, I mean, what's the correlation between ultra marathons, traveling solo, and being an entrepreneur? Like, what are those kind of red threads between those?
Doing hard things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a
Self
lot of
punishment.
yeah, I mean, there's been a few times I've sat back and been like, I must love pain, right? Like all of my hobbies include
Or painful.
pain. Yeah, painful. I think that going back to that, I think so. The first time I ever ran an ultra marathon, I was running from Lake Pleasant up to Crown Kings.
Wow.
And I don't know if you've ever done that route. It's a 32-mile route.
I have not run an ultra marathon.
Well, people do it on their ATVs and stuff. So,
on their ATV?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's different.
We get there's people on their ATVs who stop all the time. And they're like, "Where did you come from and where are you going? Like, do you need help?" It's about 200 people do it, and you go from Lake Pleasant to Crown King. So there's times where you don't see people for hours at a time.
Mm.
It's called spines to pines because you go from the cacti to the pine trees.
Wow.
And it could get up to like 90 something degrees. It's not an easy race.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the race, you get 14,000 feet of elevation change, which
Whoa.
is a lot.
Yeah. Right.
And so the first half of the race, I'm running,
Mm-hmm.
doing good.
Mm-hmm.
It starts getting warm. I had never done an ultra I had only done one marathon before that, and it was 2 months before.
Oh, and you just said sign me up for the ultra, huh?
No, my girlfriends were like, "It's fine, you can do it." Like, this is when you like surround yourself with other people who are doing crazy things,
Yeah.
and they talk you into it. They're like, "Oh, you've only done a marathon? Like, what? That's crazy." And I was like ready to quit at halfway. And I got to the aid station, and the lady there, who I don't know her name, I've never seen her again. She's completely changed my life. She has no clue. She sat me down and was like, "Can you run 3 more miles?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can run 3, but I can't run 16.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Well, the next aid station's 3 more miles ahead, so you're not quitting here."
Wow.
I love that.
Right? And so, like, things like goal setting and
Yeah.
mental toughness, like, can you be okay when you're running out in the woods? You don't want to put headphones in, right? Because you got to hear for rattlesnakes and
Yeah.
things
Right.
like that, other people. And so, being able to sit with yourself, with your thoughts, being able to motivate yourself. There's not always someone next to you. There's not a crowd cheering for you, right? These are very similar things, problem solving,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? You start cramping or you went down the wrong route, right? How do you
Yeah.
problem solve that? It's the same thing with travel, right? Meeting people, talking to people, getting from point A to point B when you don't speak the language, our metro system that's not working properly. These are all things. And weirdly, eating by yourself has been a big problem, not for me, but for other people who travel solo. These are things that you have to figure out, and it just makes everything else feel easy.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about all the solo things and all the importance of doing things solo, and then in the same breath you'll say, "Well, yeah, because you surround yourself with people." Right? So what is the balance there? You're talking about solo, but then you're saying, "But
Yeah.
it's the people around me that, you know."
you have to figure yourself out before you can figure out who you need around you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Because think about it. I mean, I'm sure you both have been in a situation where like you try to hire a mini you
yeah.
and it just doesn't work out,
Yeah.
right? Like in companies, if we go back to business, right? Finding the people who fill the gaps that you don't do well or you don't want to do well is
Mhm.
always really important. You'll find the best leaders know how to hire properly and surround themselves with the right people.
Mhm.
Even when we're looking at startup companies, right? And you're looking at the team, it's not necessarily just who's on the team, but who's the advisors that fill those gaps.
Mhm.
It's hard to figure out what you need
Yeah.
if you don't know who you are.
Wow.
And that's a huge issue for most entrepreneurs, even though intuition is the biggest skill set you can cultivate.
Do you think with entrepreneurs that one of the problems might be that they are certain that they know who they are and they stop trying to discover or unlearn or get deeper?
Ooh, such a question. It's something I've coined this phrase.
Okay.
I have not said it to too many people, so this will be the first
World first. Breaking
world
news.
first here,
Yeah.
guys.
Go.
I might even I've attempted to write this down into either like an ebook or whatnot. I call it the unicorn conundrum.
Mm.
So I think that us as a society have been told, you know, you have to follow the rules. You
Mm.
have to follow the rules. Like the first question I get asked all the time when we're talking about investors is like, what do investors want to see? Right? Like, tell us the rules. Like, tell us what numbers they want to see. Like, how do we fit it into
Just tell me
it?
how to do it on a deck. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Or even let's go to content creators, right?
Mm.
Because this is a really important, really interesting one is I can pull up ChatGPT right now, ask it what I can do to build my following on social media,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And it's going to give me a list of things. And you can find that list of things on every blog, on every podcast, on everything, right? Post X amount of times a day, use a certain amount of hashtags, all this
Mhm.
stuff. But then if we pull up the content creators who are like the top ones, none of them are doing it.
Right.
Mm.
Right. And it's because at the end of the day, we're all humans selling to humans.
Exactly. They want relatability.
They want
Imperfection.
relatability. Yes. And so for us, we've been told unicorn is the standard, right? In startup world,
Yeah.
unicorn is the goal,
Unicorns
even
this-
though
Yep.
99.9% of companies are never going to even come close to a unicorn
They won't even be
business
a
model.
horse. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's perfectly fine. That's
Yeah.
perfectly amazing. Think about if you're looking for the perfect hire or the perfect girlfriend or boyfriend, what do
Mm.
you say? Oh, they're a unicorn,
Mhm.
right? And naturally, unicorns are these they're mythical creatures. They're not real.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
You can't be a unicorn. So
Right.
we're all walking around with this like vision of like a horn stuck to our head, like wishing that nobody notices that we're actually zebras and lions and all this stuff, right? And because of that, we're trying to fit that mold. And so with AI, it's getting worse. We're seeing more companies pop up that look exactly the same.
Yeah.
We're seeing more marketing happening that doesn't resonate. And I think that as soon as you sit down and get to, say, F it,
Mm.
I'm done trying to be someone else.
Yeah.
It's hard in this society, but once you get that's when you start resonating with people. And
Mhm.
I'm not like immune to this. Like this is a hard thing for me too. I went through 2 near-death experiences in the last 6 years.
Wow.
And both of those have really changed my viewpoint on like life and business and what's important. And I don't want everyone to have to go through a near-death experience, but I think that you see a difference in people who feel that like, oh, this is not as important anymore to
Mhm.
us,
Yeah. Do you think that it has made you more spiritual?
Ooh, I don't know about that one. I mean, maybe. I think that I've never been a big like organized religion person.
Yeah.
Not saying that I don't understand why society
Right.
needs it or people need it. Not saying I don't believe in anything. I just don't know what that. If anything, I've been closer to like Buddhism,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the universe. I think I haven't become more spiritual, but I've allowed myself to trust the universe a little bit more.
Mm.
I think that would be maybe it, and trust that things are going to work out because once again, I've always made it work out in the past, right? I can
Mhm.
do hard things.
Mhm.
We'll make it work out in the future.
Um,
Um,
I'm curious, after some of these experiences, what was something that you were like, "That's not important," but it was before? Like, what's something that you were willing to shed as you had your, like you say, your "F it" moment?
yeah. Um, I think being such a person, I started in business really young. Like, really, I think my first company, I was barely 21.
Mm.
And even before that, my parents were entrepreneurs. I grew up around it. Like, it was in my household, like going and getting a job was not
Mm.
okay. Like, that was just, you were pushed towards entrepreneurship and changing the world and building a $1 billion company. And right, that was part of like our ethos. And so I think for me, it was this realization that, and as I learned more about how many companies actually get to where we're talking about, it's this realization that like I can still change the world. I can still have a great life. I can still enjoy things, but I can enjoy them now versus when I retire. Um, there's too many people I know who waited to retire, didn't get to do any of the things they love,
Mm.
and ended up passing away before they could,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? We all know that. So I think for me, it's like, how do I enjoy my life now and still fulfill the passions
Mm.
um, without the do it at all cost
Yeah.
to health and all that nature,
Yeah. Well, just knowing it's going to work out makes it easy.
right? And once again, when we start doing those hard things, like we
Yes.
realize, you know what, we'll figure it out,
Mhm.
we will figure it out.
We
That's the thing.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find the uncertainty in life, the I don't knows, that's where the fun is, right? Like that's where the excitement happens. That's where the creativity flows,
Yeah.
right? Do you have a specific time of the day where you meditate or you just give yourself to you?
Mm, oh, I honestly, I'm probably the worst person when it comes to like morning routines, night routines.
Okay.
Like I kind of go with like my flow of whatever I'm feeling, which is not always the best. I'm currently working on my nervous system,
Same.
which
Wow.
you could tell
Aren't we
is hard,
all?
right? Like it's super
I
hard.
was just thinking about mine today. That's
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been like trying to like get myself into a rhythm of things. I would say I kind of let it go where my brain flows.
Mhm.
So I've stopped fighting my body and my brain.
Mhm.
So if in the morning I wake up and I'm really want to go for a run, I'm going to go for a run as long as I don't have meetings and stuff. I'll go
Mhm.
for a run and then I'll work later or
Mm.
vice versa,
Mhm.
right? Whereas before I would be like I have to be in this certain
Yeah.
space and then I would waste 3 hours thinking about running and
Yeah.
then not get the work done I
Yeah,
needed to
yeah.
get
And
done,
then feel
right?
worse.
And then feel worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another thing I learned about running and travel and all that with that is listening to your body.
Mm.
Mm.
And so, um, one of my about 6 years ago, I had a blood clot.
Well.
And I got it on my way home from travel. I had been training for a 100-miler at the time, so my resting heart rate was super low. I was traveling. I was probably dehydrated. I was on some medication that didn't work, and there was all these reasons that it could have happened.
Mhm.
I went from being at the top of my game, being super fit, super thin, like my business was running really well. I was traveling. I was doing all of these things to not being able to leave the couch
Mm.
at all, to not being able to, being on all this medication, not being healthy, all this stuff. And it really screwed my body up. And for the last 6 years, we've been trying to figure out what that is. And I think that listening and advocating for your body, like going back to basics, fighting for what you believe in, like those are the things that really translate into things like business and intuition and identity and all of those pieces.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a saying that when Mike, the posture guy has, and he says, "Health is your wealth," or yeah, health is
Mhm.
your wealth, right? Because if you don't have health, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have nothing.
A healthy man has 1,000 dreams. Ill man only has one.
Hmm.
To be healthy.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate. Like, it's the physical part of it is one thing. The mental part of not being able to trust your body, right? Like you go from being healthy and doing everything and not to like waking up one day and everything's changed, right? And I don't think people realize the mental piece to
Mhm.
what that looks like. And then, you because of the medications and all this stuff, like I gained weight and all this stuff. And now I don't feel like myself and I don't look like myself and trying to get back out into business and all these things. And for entrepreneurs specifically, we're all about data, right? KPIs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And this is one of those KPIs, like you can't just sit down and be like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna just do this, right? Especially for most women. You know, weight and body stuff and getting hormones regulated and nervous
Mhm.
system regulated takes time and effort and trial and error, and it's not just a KPI like, let me go check this off.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a committed relationship to yourself.
And it's hard
It's hard.
and it changes everything in your life. So
Yeah. I will say having kids. Do you have any kids?
I don't.
So I have 2 boys,
Okay.
and that is my biggest motivator to being healthy, right? So it's like I have to take my own health seriously because if I don't, my babies won't, and if my
Yeah.
babies don't, I don't have a life, right? So
Mm.
it's like this cycle, right? You have to have so much strength as a mom to just take care of yourself when you don't want to. Like there are days I don't want to take care of it. I don't want to eat the vegetables,
Yeah.
but I have to do those things to create that healthy environment.
Which is probably why I'm not a mom, because I feel
Yeah.
like I always looked at my mom too, and I'm like, she did things when when she really didn't want to, she didn't feel well, she whatever, and like good moms, they do that, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we talked about doing a lot of things solo. We talked about at the same time the importance of community,
Yeah.
right? But then, your niche is in fractional, right? Like so literally jumping in, sliding in, being a part of a team that already exists.
Yep.
It's unique, I think, that you're like, yeah, well, I'm a solopreneur, but I also work on a team. And then also I make teams over here. Like how did that happen?
It's really hard when you have to fill out one of these for like be a Forbes contributor or like
Mhm.
any of these communities where they
Yeah.
ask you like, how much money did your company make last year? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, my company made this, but the companies I actually run made XYZ, right? Like it's
Just
you're-
add them all up.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
I have to
I
like
like
always
that.
make this like whole thing. It's interesting being a fractional because it's not being a consultant, right? Consultant really comes in and they're on the outside and they're looking in and they're giving you advice as like an devil's advocate, right?
And they can
They're
also
outside.
peace out.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah,
Yeah.
they give you a
Yeah.
PDF. They're like, here you go, have fun implementing.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Right.
Right. And there's time and place for consultant, right? You always
Mhm.
need that outside look. Fractionals really come in and become part of your team. And
Mhm.
the companies that that I work with fractionally, I have an email address with them. I have a
Yeah.
calendar. I have like their team knows who I am. I have a title, right? And I'm working day to day with them. So it is an interesting dichotomy as to like, okay, I'm in charge of my own schedule and like I don't have to ask anyone to go travel and work from Dubai, but at the same time I'm part of this team and we
Mhm.
have core goals that we have to like
Yeah.
hit. I got into it because so it's really funny. People call me a marketer all the time and it like kills my soul because I'm not a marketer. I was a founder.
Uh-huh.
I exited a few companies. I built 3 companies before I was 27.
Wow.
And then when I got out of like kind of doing that, not by choice, just because like we all move on to new opportunities, I started to realize that all my friends who were founders were having trouble. They were having trouble really like working with marketing firms because marketing firms and startups don't really like they're not on the same goals.
Mhm.
Right? Like when you're a startup, you need someone who can like jump in. One of the companies that I worked with my marketing agency, like we got them into the Super Bowl. When Super Bowl was here, they're
Cool.
like the media tent.
Yeah.
And it was like last minute. And
Uh-huh.
I was literally cricketing and like, ironing on like
cricket.
swag
The cricket.
the day before. Like the night before, I was up all night ironing their logo onto bean bags
Oh my God.
for the cornhole game, right?
Yeah.
Like, most marketing companies won't do that.
Right.
Mhm.
And they're going to charge you a lot of money and they talk about different KPIs than you're looking for. And so there was that gap between marketing and, startups.
Mhm.
And the same thing with small businesses. And so I jumped in and started filling that gap. And then I realized that where my passion lies is startup, small business, and they weren't thinking strategically about growth.
Mm,
Right, we're stuck in the day to day. My parents were small business owners. I know small business owners. They get stuck in this entrepreneurial poverty
yeah.
cycle of like, I can't take off because I don't make enough money, or the company won't run if I'm
Right.
not there.
It's like scarcity mode.
Yes. And that's because they're not thinking strategically about how do I grow? What are the goals for the year? Like they're not planning a year in advance. They're not planning a month in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started kind of jumping into that space and building that fractional space. And yeah, that's basically how I've gotten into it.
Have you ever considered that, the fractional thing that you do for different companies and different small businesses is similar to how you're fractionally in different running groups? And like you don't have necessarily like a home court. And my second follow-up question is, do you get into the drama in these companies?
I mean, I'm also fractionally living around the world, right? Like I
Right.
call Scottsdale my home base, but like I am totally
Couple
like,
months, yeah. Right.
honestly, I had a job offer in Lisbon, and I was like ready to move.
Let's
Like I'm
go.
like fractionally everywhere. Yeah, I think that part of it is going back to that. There's a lot of people, not everyone, right? Most kids learn really well in school systems. They do really well with the task. My brother, genius software engineering, now works for Microsoft in the quantum computing security sector, right? Like it's
Oh, genius.
genius,
Very cool.
right?
Very
Like
cool.
he's the one who started my first few companies with me. He built all my software, right? He just decided, I'm not built to be an entrepreneur.
Mm,
I want to go work for Microsoft. We're like, great. He knew from very early age what he wanted to do. Maybe not software engineer or like quantum computing, but he was like, I want to do something with math. Like I'm good at this. This is what I want to do. For people like me, and there's a great TED talk about this. There are a percentage of children and people who are good at a lot of different things and don't really fit into a box.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
when that happens, the school system really fails them. I didn't do well in school. I was the weird kid in, the art rooms,
Mhm.
right? I was on the swim team though also, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't
Right.
really fit in any space. And so picking things for my next space was really hard. And even the idea now of like, if I were to have kids, I have to maybe be a little bit less, mobile around the world, right? Or
Right.
whatnot. That scares me. I want to be able to do lots of different things. And I think
Mm.
that taking my skill set and finding a good spot for that. And I think this goes back to also, a great lesson for anyone out there is nowadays you can literally make money doing anything.
Yeah.
And so if you have something you're really good about and passionate about, find a way to like make that your life, right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
There's no reason, we see it on TikTok all the time, right? Like, I just read on the way over here an article where the guy, Alex, the free solo
Yeah.
climber,
Right.
Mhm.
was just writing articles for the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
And I bet if his dream was writing articles for the New York Times when he
made
was a
it,
kid,
yeah.
he wouldn't have been like, oh, let me go be really great at climbing.
Yeah.
And that's how
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the New York Times, right? Like,
Mhm.
nowadays we can do, like, we need to build our life
Mm.
and then build our career around that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's key. Yeah.
How do you avoid becoming a master of none?
Ha.
Because you do so much,
Mhm.
but then there's parts that you go deep to, like the point where you're not just an average runner, right? You're not a hobby runner. You're running ultra marathon.
You're an extreme
I
runner.
mean, I'm not winning any of them. Like, come on.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you avoid just trying a bunch of things and not going beneath the surface?
Mm.
How do you avoid becoming a master of none?
I think there's definitely a thread that goes through everything that I do, right? It always comes back to that passion for helping people grow businesses. Like I said, my family, my dad and my mom like built their small business from the basement of our house when I was 10. And I saw throughout my entire teens, and going into my 20s, you know, what the impact one small business can do on a community,
Yeah.
on families, on all of that. My dad used to say, like, um, I may not be curing cancer and changing the world that way, but the 8 people who work for me, they
Yeah.
can go home and feed their families and pay
Mhm.
for their kids' ballet lessons and do
Right.
all this stuff and put money back into the economy because
Mhm.
we have this business, right? So for me, the passion has always lied in how do I help more businesses? That's where the podcast came from. That's where fractional has come from, right? Like I don't like sitting around and being like, oh, I'm only going to work for one business, right? It just doesn't. And then it's just so happened that that works into my personality and like how I like to work. Um, I think that the other piece to that is that your question is somewhat flawed because I think, and this is, I think that we have to try a lot of things, and too many people don't.
Mm.
For me, I've always been the person that like every opportunity that comes in. When I was young, I was like starting 10 startups at one time, which I do not recommend.
Right.
But like I was the person who was like, every opportunity I'm going to try and see which works out and which I like and which I don't. And then it's really about figuring out, once again, coming back to like knowing yourself, figuring out when is the time to cut something. When's the time to say, this is not for me anymore.
Right.
Or like, I did what I had to do. Let's move on. I still struggle with that sometimes too, but because it feels like a failure a lot of times.
I can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so like knowing when it's time to be done with that thing and move on. And then the last piece, coming to your spirituality piece, I went to New Orleans recently. Well,
Very
I guess it wasn't
spiritual
recently. I was like, I'm going to get tarot cards read, like whatever. I'm in New Orleans. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I found some lady on the street. She looked really spiritual. I was like, I'm doing this. Like, she looked exactly like what you expect from like a tarot card reader.
Yeah.
She was amazing. I didn't tell her anything. She said to me, you have spent your life taking advantage of all opportunities and doing it. She said, now you're at the point in your life where you have to be confident to only take the opportunities that are right.
Oh.
And so I think at a certain point, once we realize what our passion is, what our expertise are, when we get confident in what we're doing, we then start to say, okay, now I don't have to try all the opportunities. I can start figuring it out.
It kind of sounds like you're saying like you finally now have earned the right to say no to some things.
I mean, I
like
think
you put in the work saying yes.
I think no is a full sentence. And, you know, I think we all have the right, whether or not we believe it, right? And when you don't have the confidence, we all have to build that out. Unfortunately, for especially women entrepreneurs and women in general, we tend to take longer to find that confidence. And there's lots of reasons in society that we feel that way. Even going back to like feeling comfortable in our bodies, understanding our own minds, being told a lot of things that we want or believe in. Or, I mean, I was told multiple times I shouldn't be an entrepreneur because I should work in nonprofits because I care too much. Right? Like, these are things that are ingrained as a woman. And we've now seen through studies that like women in executive teams bring that to the company and it actually increases ROI. Right. So, because I started before, like when my first company went to South by Southwest, it was the first year they had a women in business panel.
Wow.
And I stood up and asked the question to the women on the panel. I had just dealt with some like really bad sexism. And I was like, how do you, I know it exists. I know we can't let it like stop us, but how do you like deal with that? How do you go home and like internalize that? And one of the women on the panel said, sexism doesn't exist. And at the time it broke me. But looking back at that point, this was when big companies were sending their women executives to show like, hey, look, we have women. But they couldn't talk out about this stuff. Like, this is pre-Me Too. This is pre us talking about, you know, pay equality and all of this stuff. They couldn't talk about it. They would have been blackballed from the industry, right? But I think that, like, there's a lot of pieces that affect our confidence. You know, how we grow up, our childhood traumas. That stuff you start to learn about as you get older. And it's funny because I think back when I started my companies, I'm like, there's a lot of like naivety that like I wish I still had that like allowed me to do that, but also the knowledge I have now of who I am and what I would have blown it out of the water. You know what I mean? If I had it then, yeah. So I don't know. Like, I think that people talk about when should you start your company. Should you be really young? Should you be really, much older? There's lots of stats around women. Most women don't start their successful careers till 42.
Martha was
Um,
50.
Martha was 50, right? Like there's
Mhm.
a lot of this. And I think it's because they're finding that confidence. And you'll see that those numbers are a lot lower for especially white males.
Mm.
You know, it reminds me when I first met Forbes and Aaron, I had this saying. My best friend Santi would say, "You just find yourself in the craziest rooms, the craziest crowds. Like, what are you doing?" And I would say, "I'm saying yes to everything. Like, any
Hmm.
opportunity, yes, let's do it. Like, always the hype girl, always saying yes." And it was them who told me, "Say yes to everything until you find the thing,
Hmm.
and then focus on the thing." And so
Mm.
it kind of reminds me of that, focus on the
Yep.
thing, be able to say no because you want to give your attention to something so fully.
And
You
you'll
know?
know the thing.
Yeah.
You'll know it if you're willing to trust your intuition, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like mind. I know we talk about mindset in business all the time, and like a lot of it can be really fluffy, or if you don't believe it, it doesn't work. But
Right.
like, and I have an issue with manifestation because I think a lot of people use it as an excuse to sit on the
Yes.
couch and say, "I'm thinking about
I
it."
no longer use
Right?
that word. It's all about embodiment. Let's
Yeah.
embody
Yeah.
what we talked about.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah, because you need to do it.
Right.
You need to yes, visualization is really important, but we need to do it. But the more you start to learn, I started doing therapy to really because I lost who I was. After the blood
Mm.
clot, I couldn't trust myself anymore.
Interesting.
And it took years and like to really start figuring out like, oh shoot, that's why I'm struggling right now.
Mm.
And I started doing therapy and like that work to reconnect back to my body
Yeah.
was so important, and it allowed me to, like, walk away from opportunities I was still in. I walked
Yeah.
away from a relationship that was not right for me, right? Like,
Mm.
Because you
all
were
these pieces.
listening to your body.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because
Mm.
there are
Yeah.
signs. And so did you feel guilty or you felt like you lost yourself because you just were ignoring the signs? Or like, where did that trust?
Yeah,
Where was it lacking?
I mean, lack of trust in my body in general, like, when your nervous system, like we're talking about, is all
Yeah.
about safety.
Right.
Mhm.
And when you wake up you go to bed one night, you're completely healthy, and the next morning you
Right.
wake up and there's, something that could kill you, and
Mhm.
there's nothing else you could have done.
Mm.
You lose that sense of safety in your body and
Mm.
trust in yourself. And then I had to actually fight my doctors to actually give me the test to make sure I had one. They sent me home with a muscle relaxer and said, "It's just a sprained muscle." And I said,
Mm.
"No, it's not." And so
Same.
now you have to like trust the system, right?
Yeah.
You don't trust that anymore.
Right.
And then as you start to lose it, this was right before COVID. So then everything shut down. There's lots of stress that goes around
Right.
that. And there's no community, right?
Yeah.
Now this is where that community piece comes in. And I just started to like question and be overly vigilant about every little thing, right? If I
Mm.
had my knee hurt or my toe hurt, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die."
Oh, you almost like became a hypochondriac. Yeah.
A little bit. And then
Yeah.
I'd go to doctors and they'd do all the tests and they'd be like, "Oh, your test results came back perfectly," which happens to women all the time anyway. And then on top of it, for me to be like so like, "No, something's wrong."
Mm. And
You
then
don't
feel crazy.
feel crazy. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So you start losing trust in everything. And then when you start feeling like the world's out to get you or that it's crazy, you stop believing your gut. You stop
Mm.
believing your intuition, which is something I've always been strong in. And I think that's one of those skill sets. We talk about leadership and things, but we don't talk about like honing your gut, like
Mm.
honing, when someone says, "What does an investor want?" There might be 10 rules. I would say, figure out the 8 rules that you don't really wanna die on the hill for and
Mhm.
follow them, and then those other 2 that you really believe in, break,
Mm.
Mm.
right? Because that's what's gonna make you stand out.
Yeah.
Mm. Mhm.
It's not it's guidelines.
How'd you, rediscover or retrust your intuition?
A really, really amazing therapist.
Yeah?
Seriously, it's hard to do on your own.
Mm.
She really started to challenge my thought process.
Mm.
So this is something I've been on a soapbox about is there's a lot of people who do meditation or more spiritual stuff, whether it's religion or sound baths and all this stuff. And I'm partially woo woo, so yes, I do a lot of that. And then there's people who really stand on a hill for therapy, and I almost think you need both.
Mm.
Because the meditation and the
You're in 2
spiritual,
different communities?
I'm in, like, I'm gonna do it. But it's because the meditation and the that's inward,
Mm,
right? It's really solidifying what you need inward. The therapy for me challenged. It was the
mm,
mirror that challenged my inward thoughts
mm,
that allowed me to then, like, question everything,
mm,
Yeah.
right? And finding the right therapist, I got lucky. I was looking and looking and looking and felt overwhelmed by it. And then I went to the Yes Phoenix holiday party
yeah.
and I wasn't even supposed to be there. And then a friend came late. And so I stayed later and she introduced me to someone. And 10 minutes into talking to this woman, I don't know what it was. There's something about her vibe. And I was like, "You have an amazing therapist. Give me her name." And she was like, "I do."
Wow.
And I went,
That was your gut.
and that was it. Yeah. And we
Mm,
were, and so far it's been amazing. But yeah, I think finding what works for you to like, you need the challenge and you need to, like, pull it inward
mm,
then and, like, really solidify it and embody it.
mm,
So whatever those 2 practices are, the
mm,
same way a gymnast or a basketball player or trumpet player is gonna practice their craft, like, this is so important if you're gonna be in business
mm,
because too many people, you know this, how many people tell you you're wrong, it's never gonna succeed, or, you're going down the wrong path, or you're marketing wrong,
You're
or
mm.
delusional.
you're delusional.
I love it. I'm delusional. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Um, Now, I'm curious, you said when you find the thing, you'll know, right? I'm curious what that was like for you. When I found my purpose, I was probably like 28
Mhm.
and it hit me like hard. And I was bummed out. I was like, man, found out my life's purpose so young. Like now I gotta like live into it. It was almost like I had to grieve the process of searching
Mm.
because I
Mm.
was so used to that and
Yeah.
I was kind of resistant to my purpose. And then once I leaned into it, then it was like, oh yeah, this is what life's about. But there was some real conflict when I found the thing.
Do you think that the people who get stuck in academia never can grieve that
Maybe that
that
could
piece?
that could be super. Yeah, I mean, like you have to. When I found the thing, I was like, oh, I have to change like who I am.
Yeah.
Like all these other things, you realize they become distractions, and that
Mhm.
you know, to your point, like you go to bed one day and you have a life, right? And you wake up the next day and you're like, none of this shit matters. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. What was it like when you found your thing?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is kind of like, what people talk about with, like, emotionally unavailable men who are, like, not ready to
Mm,
move it. They wanna date situationships, whatever, and
mhm,
they meet, like, a powerful woman, and, um, a lot of times we're like, "Oh, we intimidate them," or whatever, and that's the reason they don't want, but a lot of times it's more that they're not ready to become the person
Right.
who they know they need to
yeah.
be
Mhm.
with you, right? And women too, the same thing
Mhm.
back, right? Um, for me, it's been a hard transition, not because I found, like, I've known for a really long time what my passion is, not necessarily known how I'm going to make it happen,
Mhm,
and I still, to an extent, like, I'm constantly figuring out where my skills can actually make the biggest impact in the
Mm.
world, and I don't know if I'll ever figure that out. I just constantly keep moving, um, and adapting,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
Not in a bad way, but adapting. Um
Just 3 more miles to
just
the
3 more miles,
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly,
right.
like, we're just 3 more miles away, 3 more miles away,
Mhm.
and then, that finish line was the best finish line in the world, right? Um, but anyway, I think for me, it was more that identity shift from, like, young adult into adult
Ah,
that was really hard for me. I would always been the youngest person in a room.
Mm.
yeah,
Right?
right.
And now I'm shifting into the person where, like, I'm no longer special anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm now, or
Mm,
I had many lives before I'm in this one. Most people in Arizona don't know this. Most of my friends or community don't know this. I actually worked in music out in LA, directed and produced music videos. I
cool.
worked in TV and film and had a degree in visual effects. I lived in New York City and went to every show and, like, lived it up in New York City. I like jumped on tours. Like, I literally have had I always say this, my 20s were like wild, like
Yeah.
really wild. Like,
Mhm.
and people are like, yeah, mine too. And then they start hearing stories and you see their face change and you're like,
Right.
oh, not the same type of wild. I had to I started to realize, like you said, like, oh, these things that were important to me, I was still doing them, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't
Mhm.
feeling like they were important. I didn't want to go out anymore. I didn't want to
Mhm.
drink with the same friends. Like, I
Mhm.
barely drink anymore. I didn't want to, my group, I needed to change who I was putting myself around. And I was conflicted.
You're
Mhm.
shedding.
Yeah, but I was not, I was also holding on to that skin
Yeah.
and being like, wait, I was cool
Zipping
at
it
one
up.
point. Yeah.
Right.
Like, am
Yeah.
I not cool anymore? Like, am I not going to do anything? Is this it? Am I at my peak?
Mm. Mhm.
Right? And then you start realizing that, like, wait, no, I'm actually going to start living. Once you start, grieving that and
Mhm.
you've done the grief and you've moved on and you've agreed with yourself, like, this is now who I am,
Yeah,
you start to live.
you just helped me make a huge connection for myself. Thank you. But because I was also the young guy in the room. And I think the moment was I stopped being the kid with potential and it
Yes.
had to be you have to do it,
Yes.
right? It was
Yeah.
comfortable to say, yeah, I'm going to do something great.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something great. And then it's like, so this is what you're meant to do. And you're like, oh shit, well now I got to do it,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
The exit was never big enough. Like, before it was big enough, but now it's not big enough. And
yeah.
like, you were the accomplished, oh yeah, she
Mhm.
was on the 40 under 40 list. Like,
Mhm.
people, when you walked in the room, people were like amazed. And now it's like, oh yeah, we're all doing that. Like,
Mhm.
oh
Yeah.
wait, they all caught up to me now? Like,
Right,
oh,
right.
shoot.
Yeah. Mhm.
And when I look at my life, I don't truly believe that, right?
Mhm.
And when I
Mhm.
start to like write it down and look at where I am, I own my own place. I travel whenever I want. I have more savings than most people my age, right? I've found my passion. Like, these are things that most people don't get to maybe ever,
Mhm.
right? But especially by, my age, our age.
Mhm.
Um and so, but it does start to feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a hard transition because you're like, I got to lose that person.
Yeah.
And that was really my transition into my 30s,
Mhm.
which was kind of where that happened, which is right around, I literally did a solo backpacking trip across Spain and Portugal for my 30th birthday, came back, and that's when the blood clot happened. So
Mm.
it was like
Wow.
that. I was moving into my 30s, blood clot happened, COVID happened. Like, it was just one thing after
Yeah.
another. And that identity is so hard to switch into.
But that's also so healthy that you're so self-aware of it, right?
Took a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but
I don't
it's
know
so
that sometimes I'm still very delulu about it. I can speak, it's like I think right now we see this with the wellness stuff right
Mm.
now. I call it like, you see it in like AA, right? When people get clean,
Mhm.
they go to AA and they talk all the words
Yeah.
and they don't embody.
Right.
I think embody is back to this word embody. They don't embody it in their life right away. And so they're telling everyone about it and like, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. The wellness kind of community can be a lot like that
Yeah.
too. And it's the same thing here. You have to go through, even with therapy, when I first started therapy, I'd be like, oh, here's your childhood trauma. This is you talking this.
Yeah.
And then my friend was like, yeah, I've been going to therapy since I was 12. You're not telling me anything
right.
new. Like, this makes sense, right?
Every piece of advice you give
Yeah.
is just what you should do,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
isn't that the funniest part?
It's the mirror.
I'm out here giving advice and I'm like, oh, I should probably be doing that myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at it and be like, because that's where imposter syndrome now starts coming into play, right? There's so many times I sit on the podcast and I'm like, did I say that? Like, do I have any business being in this room right now, right? Like, recently I started talking with a company, and it's in a space that I've had some experience in, but it's definitely like, I'm gonna have to learn a lot to do this job. And there's been multiple conversations where I've sat back and been like, do I belong here? Like, well, I have no business being here. And then I sit back and I'm like, wait, if I was the founder who had an idea and came up with a product, I'd have to figure it out.
Mm.
Mm.
And I can figure it out. So why do I feel like I don't have business being here? So there is that like tug and pull on everything, even when, you're successful and experienced, right?
Something I've used to fight imposter syndrome is I've just said, I'm just happy to be here. It's not a I should be here. It's not a I shouldn't be here. It's just like I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I'm not going to put any judgment on it, But I do walk into rooms, people are like, what's that guy doing here? But
I know I do the same thing. I think judging's part of our it's just part of who we are. There were studies that said that like people, communities that judge together like live longer and stuff. Like there's a little bit of gossip and judgment that's good, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of your gut too, right? I always tell people to do what I call the dinner party exercise. So when you're starting to like test, train that intuition piece, or like how do you listen to yourself, there's a lot of things that can change your mind, like on what you think is right, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest one I always give the example on is like money, right? We all want to be like, oh, money is not part of our core values. But then when push comes to shove, it may be, right?
Right.
And so in the dinner party exercise, you literally don't write anything down. You sit in your room on your bed with the lights closed and you go through, you think about no family because family complicates things, but you think about walking into a dinner party with 10 people who you want to impress. This could be your business idols. This could be, 10 Chris
Could be your dream
Hemsworths.
list.
It could be your dream list, right?
Uh-huh.
It could be your best friends. It could be the hottest guys you've ever met, right? Like it could be
Right.
whoever it is, right? And you literally walk through a conversation, the whole dinner party, the conversations. What's the first thing they ask you? What's the, how do you respond? Do you exaggerate? Do you lie? Do you, all these pieces. And then once you go through it, then you go back and you start to analyze it. Because if I lied about what I do for a living, why did I lie?
Wow.
Why? And what did I say in that lie? Because maybe that's where I should be going.
Wow.
Right. Did I lead? Was the first question that, Chris Hemsworth asked me was about why I'm not wearing more expensive clothes? Then maybe money is more part of my value system than it is. Because that might not be, he might not ask that. That might not actually be. You don't know.
Right.
But it's really what you think is important.
It's your interpretation.
It shows you what you think other people are going to think.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Hey, we ask this question to everyone that comes on Extraordinary Stories.
Feel special.
You've given so much good advice already, but I'm curious to hear, if you had to give one piece of advice that our listeners could do to start living more extraordinarily like Nicole today, what would it be?
It's gonna be to book the trip, tell the person you love them, make the career change, whatever that thing that's been nagging you to do, that you have in the back of your head that you think about when you wake up or go to sleep, or that you're worried someone's going to judge you for. Do it. At the end of the day, like I was telling you about Greece, I jumped on a catamaran with 10 people I didn't know. This is after the body issues with all the medical stuff. I wasn't, I was going to have to be on a bathing suit, and like there was lots of reasons I should not have made that decision. It ended up being one of the best decisions of my life, right? And like you said, the uncomfortable pieces, the places that you don't feel 100% are where you're going to find those spaces. And so going back to like designing the life you want and building the career around it, I think that listening to yourself, make that decision, just do it. At the end of the day, what's the worst thing that can happen?
I love that.
Yeah.
You can read more about Nicole Zeno and What the Frack at joinextraordinary.com. That's JoinExtraordinary.com, and at Join Extraordinary on all our socials. I'm Forbes Shannon.
I'm Christine Butler.
I'm Nicole Zeno.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.